All right, welcome back everyone. Next up, we have a section that I'm going to say is the least important for the entire course. That doesn't mean that I don't like it. I actually think it's very interesting, fascinating behind-the-scenes peek at how Git works, but you really don't have to understand any of this in order to use Git. So far, we haven't really talked about it, we haven't understood it, but we've been using Git just fine. So a lot of Git users won't go into any of this, or they won't be bothered to understand things like Git objects and blobs and trees and how Git hashes things. And, it's important to understand to make you a more well-rounded Git developer, I guess, but it's not critical to actually using it. Anyway, let's start by highlighting probably the one thing that I would say is slightly more important. At the beginning of this section, we're going to talk about the contents of the .git directory and just take a look at some of the more important pieces. So I'll show you the local config file. It will come up probably for you at some point if you continue using Git. And it has more real-world applications, I guess, than some of the more conceptual things. So everything else, understanding the refs directory, not that important. Understanding the head file, we've already seen it actually very early on when I first introduced branches. Then when I talk about hashing functions and Git objects, Git trees, Git blobs, all of that stuff, and I'll show you some commands, some new Git commands they're called plumbing commands. They're for behind-the-scenes usages. They're not really consumer-facing commands, as much as you could say any command in Git is consumer-facing. But anyway, that's all encompassed in these two at the bottom. So all of that is nice to have. It's great if you watch these videos, if you make it through them, if you find them interesting. But if you struggle to understand some of what I'm talking about, if I do a poor job of teaching you these concepts, you will still be a perfectly fine Git developer. But let's hope that I don't do a poor job. Okay,